And our opening words this morning are by Annie Dillard. We are here to abet creation and to witness it, to notice each other's beautiful face and complex nature, so that creation need not play to an empty house. This morning's prayer and meditation is written by Elizabeth Strong in honor of Yom Kippur. We have returned again to the time of atonement, the time to look back over our lives this past year and face the realities of when we have fallen short of the aims set forth in moments of high resolve. We have the opportunity, if we choose to take it, to hold ourselves to a standard that calls us to heed our faith's principles in the life we live each day. The Jewish New Year asks of us forgiveness and atonement, to be at one with each other in times of broken promises, that we might mend relationships, to be at one with each other in times of pain, that we might bring comfort in our compassion for the intensity of that pain. To be at one with each other in times of joy, that we might enrich the shared laughter so necessary to our well-being. Atonement is an attempt to be at one with the holy. For us, it is also an attempt to create a wholeness of community among ourselves. Here is where the sacred and the holy enter, and the community we create brings a sense of at-one-ment, not known elsewhere. Forgiveness, atonement, wholeness come together in this place as we become one gathered community of seekers. Let us rejoice and be thankful that we are together again. So be it. Our reading this morning is by Reverend Robert Walsh, entitled A Baptism. She called to ask if I would baptize her infant son. I said, what we do is like a baptism, but not exactly. And we normally do it only for people who are part of the church family. The next one we have scheduled is in May. She said, could we come to talk with you about it anyway? They came to see me, the very young woman and her child, and the child's very young father. She explained that the child had been born with a heart defect. He had to have a risky heart operation soon. She had asked the clergyman of her own church if he would baptize her son, and he had refused because she was not married to the baby's father. I told them that their not being married would not be an impediment to anything we might do, but that our child dedication ceremony still might not be what they were looking for. I explained that our ceremony does not wash away sin. It does not guarantee the child a place in heaven. It does not even make the child a member of the church. In fact, I said, it doesn't change the child at all. What we expect is that it will change the rest of us in our relationship with the child and with all children. She listened patiently. When I was through, she said, all I want is to know that God blesses my baby. In my mind, I gasped at the sudden clarity in the room. I said with a catch in my throat, I think I can do that. And I did. I really love our worship committee. Actually, can my worship committee stand? Not only are they willing to take over a Sunday service with just 2 days' notice, as they did 2 weeks ago, but they also have such great discussions during our meetings. These folks are so thoughtful. And believe me when I say that we don't stay on the surface of things. No, we get down into it. We play in the theological mud. And you know, sometimes the conversations we have aren't easy. Sometimes they are actually pretty hard. Feelings get hurt and emotions run high. Because we are not just sharing our thoughts on what we're having for dinner. We're sharing our thoughts on our deepest held spiritual beliefs and how to support and nurture and grow the spiritual lives of each and every person in this congregation. So the stakes feel high, and we don't always agree. I'm sure you'll be shocked to learn that with a crew of 8 UU worship committee members, we have 8 different perspectives on the world. So we have different perspectives when we ask ourselves questions like these. What language and rituals should we use as part of our worship life? Is our goal to boil our theological diversity down to our least common denominator? In other words, should we only use language for the holy that works for everyone? Is there language for the holy that works for everyone? If we at times call upon Christian ideas and language, quote the Bible, talk about Jesus, do we alienate those among us who do not identify as Christian? If we never say God, what then draws us beyond ourselves to spirit, to connection, to the divine? We say we are open to the truths found in all of the world's religious traditions. Why are many of us comfortable talking about wisdom from Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, but not Christianity? If we recognize that many people in this congregation have been scarred by their religious upbringings, and that some people come here after rejecting the Catholic Church or other Christian denominations, how do we work to heal that pain without alienating the members here for whom God and Jesus and the Christian scriptures hold a sacred place? What about when people identify as recovering Catholics or make disparaging remarks about Christianity? If these words come from a place of their own pain, do we have to embrace them? Or can we point out that it might be offensive to those in the community who hold Christian beliefs? Some of us have rejected the concept of God and come here to worship at the one place where that rejection is embraced as part of a spiritual journey. For some of us, our one tether to life and hope and being able to face one day at a time is a deeply held belief in God. How do we sit together in worship? With such differing beliefs, how do we share a pew in this church? And most recently, can we call this place church? As you can see, our meetings go late into the night. We laugh, we cry, we pull out our hair, and then we come back to what keeps us at the table. That somehow all of us feel that the UU Meeting House is our spiritual home, and that we want to be at the table together, that we love each other and respect each other, that we are better people for being together, thinking about these hard questions. At a recent meeting, the idea that we circled around and then tentatively landed on and then grasped as our foothold to move forward was this. Our goal is not to create a space where we all believe the same thing, or where we only talk about our common ground of belief. Our diversity is a challenge. We may not have a common language that speaks to everyone's spiritual truths, but our diversity is also our strength and our gift. Our goal is to create and sustain and nurture a place where each of us speaks our truth from within, where we are all given a voice, and where we hear each other and respect each other, where we grow in our own beliefs by talking about them and sharing them, where we grow in our own beliefs by hearing and thinking about the beliefs of others. As the UUMH Worship Committee, we recognize that we sometimes shy away from talking about our spiritual beliefs because of all these questions that we wrestle with. And we feel that the best thing the worship committee could do would be to model a deep sharing from our unique perspectives on life, perspectives informed by our pasts and our stories and our spiritual journeys. So may today be a new beginning for that deep sharing, and may we open ourselves to the brave members of the worship committee who offer part one of what I hope will be a continuing series that we've borrowed a great name for. This I Believe.
Good morning. I believe that when I see myself as Jane, a self that is separate and limited, I'm identifying with a story that my mind has strung together out of inherited ideas and beliefs, full of agendas and judgments, and I am on shaky ground. But when I see myself as the ever-present source and substance of my experience, as that which doesn't come and go, that is always shining, I'm identifying with my true self, pure awareness. Identification with the story of me leads to suffering. Knowing myself as the open, empty, luminous presence of awareness is peace itself. My current spiritual teacher comes from the Advaita tradition. Some say that Advaita is the essence of all spiritual traditions. Advaita, loosely translated, means not non-duality or not two. In awareness, there is no separation. There are not two things. Everything is experienced as interconnected, as one. You and I, the trees and the flowers, the waves and the wind, all made out of this pure awareness. It is who we are. Awareness is all-allowing, is infinite, is unlimited, and eternal. I experience that which has no boundaries, no separation, as total intimacy. For me, that is love. I experience that which is all-allowing and has no judgment of what should or should not be happening, as conflict-free. For me, that is peace. And I experience all that I see as part of this same awareness that I am. For me, that is beauty. love, peace, beauty, all words that perfectly describe the divine presence of awareness that I am, that we all are, that everything is. As a psychologist, my job was to help people deconstruct the ideas, beliefs, patterns, and stories that clouded over the truth of who they were. A healing and peeling away process that I continue to use for myself every day. And as an artist, I try to express the beauty of interconnectedness and oneness in my paintings, as foreground blends into background, trees into sky. It is this pure awareness that I am, this luminous truth of who we all are, that I believe is the enlightenment that has traditionally been seen as the exclusive provenance of the chosen few, but which I also believe is who we all are already. Our ability to live knowingly from this place is simply a matter of resting in our most direct, intimate experience, not in the story of who we think we are, but in that pure, allowing, unlimited, and infinite light of awareness that has always been our experience. With the sinking of the mind into the heart, the surrendering of the self, all separateness is dissolved, and love is all that remains. Thank you.
I believe God is alive. I believe God is in each of us and in the universe, and that we are in God and the universe is in God. This is the incarnation I believe in. Thus, I believe in the principles of love for neighbor and self and respect for all life, and I struggle to live these principles every day. I understand what Doug Mooder, a contemporary UU writer, means about our early UU history when he says, quote, Channing, Ballou, and Parker did not take the Christianity of their day as a given and argue for or against it. Each found elements of unspeakable wonder in Christianity, encrusted by doctrines and theologies gone horribly wrong. I believe in honoring the wisdom and wonder we can find in all religions, including Christianity. I find inspiration in a wide scope, from literature and nature, from the Bible to the Upanishads. One of my favorite sacred texts is Franny and Zooey by J.D. Salinger. In Salinger's novel, Franny and Zooey, the two siblings, are talking about their work as child contestants on a radio quiz show. Why do we do this every week? One despairs to the other. And the answer is, quote, don't you know it? Don't you know that secret yet? The fat lady is Christ. He means the fat lady out there in the Midwest somewhere sitting on her back porch listening to the radio, whom they will never meet. She cares about them, listens to them, needs them. They bring her joy and a sense of connection. And when they do, they are connecting to the divinity in her and in themselves. And what that means is the interconnectedness of love is divine. I believe that fundamental to doing good is simply and wholly being connected to the love and truth of creation. I know brokenness exists, sickness, horror, injustice, the list goes on. In our universe, all is freedom and potential. So therefore, forces will fight for supremacy, and sometimes horror wins. Sometimes the innocent suffer. I believe God does not know the future, but rather knows all possible futures, and that sentient beings have the freedom and responsibility to create a safe and loving future. I'll end with a poem of my own that talks about that. God is depending on us for the mending, the loving and caring and healing and such, and gives us creation and freedom and wisdom and praise that we use them for loving and caring and healing to touch one another. God sent are we. Oh, and God sending.
I believe that there's more out there on a spiritual or metaphysical plane than I can currently comprehend. That's the first belief that occurred to me when I started writing this, and I think it's what makes me a seeker. So what are the beliefs that support me as I search for more answers? First, I believe in the Buddhist concept of basic goodness, which says that our most basic qualities are positive ones: openness, intelligence, and warmth. I do believe that we are inherently good, and it's connected, I think, to UU theology. The 19th century Unitarian minister Thomas King says, "Universalists believe that God is too good to damn people, and Unitarians believe that people are too good to be damned by God." That being said, our relationship to our basic goodness and to the basic goodness of others can be tested in many ways. The wounded egos that we bring into our adulthood can obscure that truth about ourselves. And that brings me to my second belief. I believe in the concept that we are what we think we are, or as is commonly stated, what the mind believes, the body achieves. Many years ago, I did the second Boston-New York AIDS ride. My goal was to stay on my bike and never get off to walk it for the entire 300 miles. But that was getting severely tested on the second day outside Storrs, Connecticut, as I toiled up a very long hill on a very humid day. People were literally dropping like flies, and I began to fear my ability to continue. At that moment, I looked at the rider in front of me. The back of her shirt had that slogan, "What the mind believes, the body achieves." I decided to test that belief, so I focused on my mind, telling myself that I'm fine, I don't need to stop. And I made it on my bike through the brutal heat of that day and the tail end of Hurricane Edward the next. It was my first glimpse of the power of that belief, and it's a belief that I continue to explore. There's also, of course, an equally powerful downside. I've seen in myself and others how our negative internal stories and beliefs can derail us from our true selves. But when Rev Kate asked this question, what do I believe, I thought I should also look at my relationship to the concept of God. Do I believe in God? The answer seems to be that I'm not sure. I realize that when asked, I give a variety of answers. Sometimes I say, no, I don't believe in God, which can be a sign that I'm not having a good day. Sometimes I say, yes, I believe in God, and leave it at that. And sometimes I say, I believe in God, but qualify the answer to mean I believe God is a concept that represents energy or love or connectedness. When I told Rev Kate about this lack of certainty, she replied in an email, "Hooray! Wrestling is good. I think we can all relate to that." You have to love a church and a minister who responds to spiritual doubt with hooray. But having lived through the AIDS crisis, and as I now watch my mother's generation starting to pass, it hasn't always felt like hooray. It would be nice to have a clear set of beliefs about the meaning of life and what happens after, but I don't. Maybe it's because I'm a Pisces. Our sign is two fish swimming in opposing directions. Maybe it's because I was not raised with a strong religious education. The Bible remains pretty much an unwelcoming mystery to me. And maybe it's my interest in UU theology and Buddhism, both of which encourage us to question everything. And that brings me back to my first belief, which I've realized from this exercise is a core belief, an encouraging belief, that there is more to this world, to the meaning of life, to the power of us, than I currently understand. That I believe.
I'll admit that at our recent talk soup, I was a little sad to give up the word church from our affirmation. I love church. Church has always been a comfortable word and place for me. To me, it's a building and an institution that means love, growth, community, quiet, celebration. But I recognize that although this is my truth, it is truth from my perspective. A truth built up brick by brick out of my life experience. So I am willing to give up the word church in our affirmation in exchange for a word that speaks more fully to the lived experience and truths of more of our members, for a word that widens our embrace. At a worship committee meeting, Kathleen called this spaciousness widening our tent poles. It's a reference to Isaiah. Enlarge the place of your tent. Stretch your tent curtains wide. Do not hold back. Lengthen your cords. Strengthen your stakes. Because really, when we had our talk soup conversation about the wording of our affirmation, it mattered less to me what language we landed on as a community, and more how we had the conversation. Was it respectful? Was everyone engaged? Did everyone have a voice? Did it make each of us think more deeply about what our words mean, what community means to us, how we can act out our laws, promises, gifts, prayers? When we are in a supportive and loving community, I believe we can loosen our grips on the words we choose, broaden our theological vocabulary, and look at the spirit of what we are trying to create together. Sometimes there's a baby that needs a blessing. I believe we have a blessing here to give. Amen, and blessed be.